So a part of my past that you guys might not know is that I used to be a big bully.
You were a bully?
Yeah.
Really?
Jackson.
Shocking as that might sound.
The only shocking part is the big part.
So some examples of this, and what ages are we talking about?
So this was all in middle school when it happened. And for some context, during our last episode of the Personality Hires podcast recording that came out this week, we were talking about what we were like in middle school. And I came clean to everybody that I used to be a bully. So this was specifically 7th and 8th grade.
So you're reformed.
I am reformed. I think I've changed a lot since
Are
then.
you?
Allegedly.
Abby,
He
is
fat shames me on a daily basis.
Those are jokes.
And Mikey
Yeah.
does too, so maybe there's something.
Bert?
So what years were these? And I'm really curious, where did it come from? Because at least I've met your mom, and she seems like a very loving mother. It's not like you were begging for attention or anything like that.
Yeah, so this was 7th and 8th grade. So I had just switched from public school to private school at this point. And I had a really rough 6th grade. That's where all of my anxiety and OCD kind of stems from, was for whatever reason, that's when it all sort of came out.
You have anxiety and OCD now?
Yeah, big time.
Really?
Yeah, I'm medicated and yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, he's super fucked up. Or sorry, he's super messed up.
And so my mom thought it might be a good idea for me to maybe go to a different school, a much smaller school. And that's kind of, what would help me out then. Because in 6th grade, I was like going to therapy and psychology appointments like all the time. I missed a ton of school. It was a really rough time.
And also clearly didn't work, huh?
And I thought that, me personally, now thinking back on it, I think that's why I was kind of lashing out when I was in middle school afterwards, because like I was maybe harboring a lot of stuff from then, and I had this newfound confidence. And also, I'll have you know that right now I'm 5'8". I'm not a tall person, okay?
You're like Shaq to me.
But but I've been this height since 7th grade. Okay, so me now, not tall. As a 7th grader, I was huge.
That's the worst possible scenario, because you've tasted what it's like to be that tall, and now you've got to live in a short life. That's the worst. It's like, what's the old saying about love? Is it better to have loved and lost, or never loved at all?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with height.
Yeah, I mean, it gave me a taste of the good life for a few years, and then everyone not only caught up, but shot way past me in high school.
I'm so
But
sorry.
I was tall, and I was like super athletic, and I went to a really small middle school, the 7th and 8th grade private school, where I had 23 people in my graduating class. That's it.
Okay.
And so I'm going to show you guys a picture of myself on the tennis team when I was in 8th grade, just to give you a sense of scale for how much larger I was than everyone else.
Were you the coach?
You do look like the coach standing on the end of the lineup.
Are you?
Seriously.
Whoa.
That's me.
Whoa, no wonder why you were the bully.
They should have had you playing basketball based on that photo.
Oh,
man.
I played a ton of basketball at the time. Our track team was so small that I ran like every event. So I would throw shot put for a first heat, then I would go run the 4x1, and I would come back and throw my second shot put. Then I would do discus, and I did like almost every event while I was there.
This is so fascinating to me, because I would love to get the perspective from your classmates that you bullied when they finally shot past you in height, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna fuck this guy up now."
Well, the good news is most of them didn't follow me into high school. We split ways, most of us afterwards. But yeah, in middle school, I guess to give you some examples, I think with this newfound confidence that I had at a smaller school, there was just something about it that made me just like a really like mean person, and people also really looked up to me, and so that gave me this kind of unfounded power that was never in check.
Literally and figuratively?
Yeah, so as an example, like at lunch, we would all go sit outside on these like picnic tables to eat, and I would sit down and everyone would come and sit down with me, and then I'd be like, I don't like this seat. So then I would stand up and move to another table, and everybody would get up and follow me
my
to like
God.
another table, right? And
So the power went to your head.
it big time went to my head. This is the time of my life where like I was definitely getting in the most trouble in school, because I was like acting out and thinking it was cool to like talk back to teachers. The only times that I've ever gotten in fights was during this time as well. Like I was just a hot mess. And for whatever reason, there was one kid in particular in my grade that I kind of singled out as the person that I was just the absolute worst to. And looking back on it, I definitely have regrets, because I was just blatantly mean to this person. And
Give us some examples.
So the biggest one,
You're the worst.
Just over here, turning the stove on.
the biggest one that I can think of is in 8th grade. Our field trip was to go to Rome, Italy, which was like a huge deal.
Yeah.
Everyone looked forward to this forever, right? And like weeks prior to the trip, I was at PE, and for whatever reason, I had to go inside early. So I'm inside, and I catch this guy that I'm talking about, like running out of the bathroom and just making the grand assumption that he shit his pants. Okay. I am 80% sure he actually did, but I ran with that, and I tormented him over that.
Oh, no.
Told everybody. Everyone made fun of this guy for weeks and weeks afterwards, and it was so bad to the point that he didn't go on the big trip to Rome
Oh,
afterwards.
you're the worst, dude. You're the worst.
You owe him a trip to Rome.
That's what I'm saying. It was like for 100 days of good gone round, we gotta call up your bully.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that bad.
It was that bad. There was a girl that he was absolutely obsessed in love with, and then as much as you can as a middle schooler, I only solely dated her just for the fact of
Jackson.
What a huge D.
Yeah, I know.
What was it about this kid that you hated so much?
I don't
tar-
know.
easy-
He's an easy target.
target.
Funnily enough, he was actually pretty tall as well, and he was an athletic kid. But for whatever reason, I don't know if I felt threatened or what, but I
probably.
really just piled it on, and all of my little minions that were around me would all like additionally pile on. So it was just always constantly pretty bad.
Have you seen that Black Mirror episode of the girl who got bullied and how she got paybacks?
No.
Okay, it's messed up.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if
Every
this guy is going to be able to get payback because of what we found out during our recording.
So I told them in private his name, and Abby did a quick Google search, and the first thing that comes up is not his Instagram, it's not his Facebook, it's a mugshot.
Oh, damn. Look what you did.
And I started spiraling. Like, did I maybe affect this kid's life so much that he's now in jail? And so we're all doing this deep dive. Everyone's got their phones and computers out looking. And there's like one that has his name attached to it that was like assault, battery, and murder or something. And I was like, there's no way. It cannot possibly be that. Fortunately, after a lot of digging, we found out that it was like a petty weed possession that he had and he got booked for.
He's been numbing since then, so that makes sense.
So he's been hiding, all the emotions that I made him feel.
So he didn't do all the other things. It was just weed?
No, that was a totally different guy in like a different state or something.
Okay.
They just happen to have the same name.
Have you had thoughts of reaching out and apologizing?
I have.
On the radio at 7:30 on Monday morning.
I've considered it. I want to know if he remembers it like as much as I do, or
He will.
Yeah, he does.
He probably will. I don't. Yeah, again, I don't know what it was about him. It just like now when I'm thinking back to it, it kind of makes my skin crawl because that is not who I am at all.
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely not something that I can't even imagine that I was capable of like treating someone like that.
Right?
And it wasn't just him. It was like a whole bevy of people or anyone that was just in front of me that I knew that I could poke fun at. Like I would go in and I would go in hard.
So I think there's a valuable lesson here, and I actually think you can use your past bullying to do some good now and in the future. So at what point did you realize you were the bully and you needed to rectify your behavior?
I don't think that I ever realized that until like I became an adult. I think that when I went to high school afterwards, it wasn't at this same school, so it was much bigger. There's way bigger pond, way bigger fish inevitably, and I didn't have that sort of chip on my shoulder that I had in middle school. So I don't think there was ever like a day of reckoning for me throughout the time that I was being this terrible. I never thought of anything wrong with it.
You just really never know where somebody comes from, because if we would have assigned that story to somebody on the staff, you'd be the bottom half of the people that go, oh yeah, for sure that was Jackson. I'd for sure go, that's Kaylee.
And I like that because that's a testament for the fact that I truly have changed since then. Like this is not part of who I am today, but man, looking back on that is tough.
So I commend you for like recognizing that, having remorse for it. It makes your skin crawl because I think that shows that you've evolved and changed as a person, and that's fabulous. And obviously now that this is like bothering you and thinking back like how you treated this kid when you guys were in middle school, in order to not more so for him, but also for you, because I think two things can be true at the same time. I think you can do something for your, for your conscience, and I also think you could do something to make amends for your past transgressions. I think it would be a great idea to reach out to a local bullying charity and speak to students as a former bully.
This could be good for the 100 Days of Good too. Like
Yeah.
that is
That's a great one,
I feel so often we hear from those who have been bullied, but it takes it takes vulnerability and putting yourself out there to say, hey, I was the bully. And I think there's a lot to be learned about the bully that there could be a kid in middle school right now that is you from middle school that is treating somebody like absolute crap. And maybe he just needs to hear from you, a former bully, that, oh God, instead of finding out instead of coming to that realization as an adult, maybe intervene now to be like, yeah, what I'm doing is wrong.
And for the kids being bullied too, also to hear from a bully being like, hey, yeah, I was actually insecure and I wanted to take people down because of it. But also the idea of you being in front of like a congregation of students, I'm sure is like nut shriveling a little bit, like, oh God, I have to go tell them I was a bad person. But to me, that's also the comeuppance for making somebody else feel like that in front of other people.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. I think that'd be a great exercise, not only for myself, but also to spread, obviously, a good message. But I think that the thing that I'd really want to hammer home to maybe speaking out into a sea of people, and there is one or two people that are bullying out there, that I'm trying to make it clear to them that it's the cool and funny, fun thing to do while you're in that position, but I need to try and figure out a way to send a message to them that it's actually not, and you're causing a lot more harm than good. You know?
Just show that guy's mugshot. Be like, you're going to bully people into a life of crime.
Yeah. Well, I was going in a different direction with that. I thought that you should reach out to that kid that did get busted for the weed infraction, but mostly because my stash is super low right now. And I'm not exactly sure who to go to.
I heard you know a guy.
The Bert Show.